Hello, my name is Hannah Hemberger, and this presentation regards the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA. What is FERPA? It is a federal law that protects the confidentiality of student records. Student records include personal information, emails, and student files. All schools that do receive federal funding for any program administered by the Secretary of Education are subject to FERPA. Parents are granted rights for their children under FERPA. Rights can be transferred when their children turn 18 or when they attend post-secondary school. Parents that claim children as dependents retain their educational rights. Educational documents include anything that is directly related to the student. Here are a few examples. Student's name and address, as well as their family members and/or siblings that they have in school. Their social security number or student number. So student number could be, we have on our special education side, all students have a WebKids number or a state ID number. The list of their personal characteristics or anything that makes them easily identifiable. And then indirect identifiers that include their mother's maiden name, their place of birth, and/or their date of birth. The FERPA law provides the right of parents and adult-age students to inspect and receive a copy of student records, the right to deny access to others, specifically those outside the school system with some exceptions, a process to correct errors including a hearing, the right to opt out of military recruitment, the right to opt out of the disclosure of a student's directory information, and finally, a complaint process handled by the Family Compliance Office of the U.S. Department of Education. It does not give the right to sue the school or dictate requirements for safeguarding educational records. Some specific parent rights that I think we should educate parents on is that they have the right to inspect and review their children's education records. They can seek to have their education records amended, and they do have some control over the disclosure of education records. In addition, if parents or children over 18 believe their rights have been violated, they can file a claim with the department. Schools and data. Educational records should be destroyed when no longer needed for the purpose disclosed. I did read also that high school transcripts should not be destroyed after students leave high school. Education records that are online still fall under the same laws and regulations, and if anything, you need to be more careful. So in this day and age, we are scanning more information in and uploading more information into computer systems, and we just need to be aware of the laws with those specifically. With Interlocal 19, the cooperative that I serve or work for, our special education records, we have at every IEP meeting, parents are required to sign that their students' documents will be destroyed 5 years after leaving our cooperative. They will have copies of all the paperwork that they need, or they can request copies within that 5 years. And we are sure to tell them about this and get that signature. It is required at every meeting that we have. And then we always make sure that copies are shredded that have personal student information on them. Our Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVoe, said that school leaders and law enforcement need to protect student privacy while ensuring the health and safety of students and others in the school and the community. And I just really liked that she said this in talking about the health and safety of our students. Because what we might share or show of one student could in fact affect another student. So we will do this by utilizing our SROs and our law enforcement. They are an on-site law enforcement officer that serves as a liaison between the school and local police or the sheriff's department. So SROs are to be considered a school official The school or district must have direct control over their use of educational records. They can obtain records of students in which they have legitimate educational interest. They are subject to FERPA's redisclosure limitations, which means that they cannot share PII information with others unless certain expectations have been met. SROs are not required to report undocumented students in schools unless there is an extraordinary circumstance involving public safety. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, more than 80% of public schools and more than 90% of high schools in the U.S. use security cameras to monitor students during the 2015-2016 school year. And I will say that the more time I spend in education, the more I find the schools are adding cameras in classrooms, cameras in hallways, outside of the school. And so these next two bullet points I think are very important when it comes to video footage. So when a school has recorded or saved video surveillance that directly relates to the student and is maintained by the school, it must be disclosed to the parents. Schools are prohibited from disclosing recorded videos of students to law enforcement unless there is a written consent from the parent, it is a court order or subpoena, or it's a health and safety emergency. In order to ensure that Interlocal 619 is FERPA compliant, we need to raise awareness about FERPA, know that it does apply to 619 because we do receive federal funds from the Secretary of Education's departments and her programs. We need to know the rights, protections, and exceptions, choose compliant vendors, train all school employees on FERPA, implement compliant policies and procedures, encrypt files and emails, and implement other prevention tools. Here are the resources I used for this presentation. Thank you for your time.